2:14 in the morning. The room is dark, the day is over, and you are back in a hallway at 4 in the afternoon saying it better. In this version, you are calmer. Your sentence lands. You do not do the small, nervous laugh at the end. It is a good version. It is also 9 hours late, delivered to nobody, in a hallway that no longer exists. So why does a finished conversation keep running? And why does going over it more never once make it feel finished? Hold onto that hallway. There is a cost running quietly underneath it, and we come back for both at the end. Replaying conversations is not a diagnosis, and it is not proof of a disorder. Nearly everybody does it after a moment that mattered. It becomes worth noticing when the reruns outlast the event by days, when they arrive uninvited at night, and when stopping feels like letting something dangerous go unwatched. The usual story is that the mind is malfunctioning, anxiety spinning for no reason, a tape stuck out of sheer bad luck. That premise is a little misleading, on purpose. The replay is not a malfunction. It is a closing routine, running exactly as designed, on a file that never got a closing signal. Most of the day closes itself. You paid for coffee and the transaction ended. The meeting ended when people stood up. A closed thing stops asking to be handled. Conversations often do not. Nobody tells you how it landed. There is no receipt, no confirmation, no closing bell. The file stays open because nothing arrived to close it. So the routine does the sensible thing. It goes back to the recording to look for the missing signal. A tone of voice. A pause. Something that says how it landed. And here is the trouble. A recording contains exactly what it contained the first time. There is no new information inside it, no matter how many passes you make. The signal the routine wants is not in the recording. It is in the other person. And the other person is asleep. And they have almost certainly not thought about it since. So the search comes back with nothing. The file stays open, and the routine schedules another pass. That is the whole engine. It is not irrational. It is just aimed at the wrong shelf. Psychologists have a name for this. Post-event processing, the detailed going over that follows a social moment. Research finds it travels together with social anxiety, moderately and not one for one. It also shows up more after moments that felt like a performance than after ordinary conversation. A presentation, an interview, a first meeting. Anywhere you were being assessed. Said carefully. That is a pattern measured across many people, and it is not a label for you. Most of what this video describes is ordinary mental housekeeping running longer than it needs to. Worth asking why it waits for the dark. The routine did not choose the hour. It took the first opening it was given. All day the machine is busy. Traffic, a scream, somebody talking, the next task. Every one of those is a job that has to be done now, and now always wins. Then the lights go off, and every one of those jobs ends at once. The bench clears, and the one file that never closed is the only thing still asking for a pair of hands. There is a second reason, and it is plainer. A tired mind judges more harshly than a rested one. The same afternoon, reviewed at midnight, comes back with a worse verdict than it earns. But there is something worse than finding nothing, and this is the part almost nobody knows. Memory does not work like a tape. Every time you play it, you re-record it. And what re-records it is the state you are in while you look. At 2 in the morning, in the dark, braced for something bad, that state is not neutral. So the pause that was half a second becomes a full one. The polite expression becomes a strained one. The recording drifts toward the fear that is holding it. This is the first paradox. You are reviewing the evidence in order to find out whether it was bad, and the reviewing is what makes it worse. And because the version keeps getting more detailed, it also keeps feeling more true. Vividness is not accuracy, but at 2 in the morning, it is very hard to tell them apart. There is a second engine underneath, and it runs on a feeling. Going over it feels like working on it. Effort is real. Motion is not. Nothing about the hallway changes. Nobody is contacted. No question is answered. But it does not feel like doing nothing, and that is enough to keep it running. This is the second paradox. The sensation of handling it is exactly what keeps the file open. A file being worked on cannot be closed. It shows up in specific places, and always the same ones. The drive home from anything. 25 minutes of empty road is 25 minutes of studio time, and the mind has been waiting all evening for the booth. The shower, where there is nothing to read and nothing to answer. 12 minutes with no input at all, and the routine finally has the machine to itself. And 2 in the morning, which is the worst booking of all, because tired judgment is harsher judgment, and there is nothing else scheduled until dawn. It has a written form too. You send a message, then reread your own sentence 4 times, looking for the tone you did not intend, in words you chose on purpose. The pattern in 1 line. The conversation took 4 minutes, and you have now spent 6 hours on it, and the other person has spent none. The cost is not the lost sleep, though that is real. It is what the reruns quietly teach. The first cost is the memory itself. After enough passes, the version you can reach is the edited one, and the original afternoon is simply gone. The second cost is forward-facing. A mind that expects a 6-hour review after every conversation starts negotiating before the conversation, and negotiates downward. And the third cost is the one that stings. The routine does not only run on the bad moments. It runs on the good ones, too, until a genuinely warm evening has to pass an audit before it is allowed to count. The way out is not stop thinking about it. Telling a running routine to stop is an instruction it has no way to follow, and failing at it adds a second thing to review. The move is different. Do not argue with the routine. Give it the closing signal it has been waiting for, since that is the only thing it will accept. So, write 1 sentence. Not in your head, where it can be revised forever. On paper, where it stops moving. The verdict I am willing to live with is this. It was slightly awkward, and nobody was harmed. I said a true thing badly, and the point still arrived. I do not know how it landed, and I am not going to find out tonight. That third sentence is doing the most work because it is the only honest one available at 2 in the morning. The uncertainty is not resolvable tonight, and saying so is a verdict rather than a surrender. Writing works where thinking does not, and the reason is mechanical. A thought can be revised silently forever. A written line cannot revise itself while you are looking away from it. It also gives the routine something it can actually check, not a feeling about whether the matter was handled, but an object on a table that either exists or does not. When the rerun arrives again, and it will, do not re-argue. Point at the sentence. The routine is not asking to be convinced. It is asking whether the file was handled, and now it was. A second tool for the ones that will not seal. Give the review a scheduled window with a start and an end, in daylight, and let the night reruns be postponed to it rather than argued with. Postponing works where stopping fails, because it does not tell the routine it is wrong. It tells it there is a slot. Most of what gets postponed to daylight turns out not to need the slot. And sometimes the review is right. Sometimes you did say something that needs repairing. You will know the difference by what the file asks for. A real one asks for an action, not another viewing. If it asks for an action, the action is almost always smaller than the review. 1 short message in the morning. Then the file closes, because this time something actually arrived to close it. 1 honest limit. If the reruns are constant, reach into most nights, and come with a dread that does not lift when the day is objectively fine, that is worth taking to a professional rather than to a technique from a video. And in either case, it is not a character flaw. A closing routine that runs too long is a system doing its job with the volume set wrong, which is a very different thing from a person being broken. Return to that hallway. 4 in the afternoon, a sentence that came out slightly wrong, and a small, nervous laugh at the end of it. And this is the cost that was running underneath. Not the sleep, the afternoon itself. Somewhere around the 40th pass, the real hallway was overwritten by the one you built at night. The honest reading of that afternoon is dull. It was probably fine. Slightly awkward, entirely survivable, and forgotten by everyone who was there except one person. And the other person in that hallway has not thought about it once. Not out of coldness. Their file closed on its own, the way most files do, and they went to sleep. If they remember anything at all, it is usually not the sentence. It is that you showed up, or that you were easy to talk to, or nothing in particular, which is the most common outcome by a wide margin. So it is 2:14 again, and the routine is asking the same question it always asks. Was that handled? It only ever accepted one answer, and it was never a better version of the sentence. It was somebody deciding, out loud and on paper, that the afternoon is allowed to be over. The deeper change is not learning to replay it better. It is noticing that you have been auditioning for an audience that left the building, and that you are allowed to turn the lights off behind them.